A very good evening to all pious yogis. This evening we shall discuss a discourse given by the Buddha to the householder Nakulapita. The gist of the discourse is quite well known. There are quite a few discourses also touching on this topic. The gist of this discourse is that when one is afflicted in body, one's mind shall remain unafflicted. Or in other words, when the body is sick, do not let the mind sick. So how do you do that? When the body is sick, you do not let your mind sick at the same time. So I shall go through this discourse with you. So on one occasion, the householder Nakulapita approached the Blessed One. After paying homage to the Buddha, he sat down to one side and said to the Buddha, "I'm old or aged, burdened with years, once in life, and coming to the last stage of life, and afflicted in body, and becoming ill or sick very often." So he said, despite of this condition, I rarely get to see the Buddha and the bhikkhus worthy of respect. So the householder Nakulapita requested the Buddha to instruct him so that that instruction will lead to his welfare and happiness for a long time. So the Buddha replied, "So it is, householder, so it is. The body of yours is afflicted with thou encumber." Isn't it? When the body is getting older and older, you could feel that is a heavy burden to have this body, old body. When you have this heavy burden, you also find it difficult to move around. Sometimes it can also cause a lot of worry, anxiety, thinking about what sickness or about death and so on. Then the Buddha said further, if anyone carrying around this body were to claim to be healthy even for a moment, it's only due to his foolishness or her foolishness. So when a person is getting old and not well, sick, then one may not even feel little bit of comfort, even for a short moment. Or in other words, one you feel discomfort almost all the time. Then the Buddha said, therefore, householder, you should train yourself thus. Even though I'm afflicted in body, my mind will be unafflicted. So after hearing the instruction of the Buddha, the householders Nakulapita was very happy, delighted, rejoicing in the teachings of the Buddha. So he paid homage to the Buddha and take leave from the Buddha. Then he went to approach the Venerable Sariputta. So Venerable said to him, your faculties are serene, your facial complexion is pure and bright. Did you get to hear a talk of Dharma today in the presence of the Buddha? Then he said, why not? Just now I was anointed by the Buddha with the ambrosia of a Dharma talk. So the householder Nakulapita repeated his whole conversation with the Buddha to the Venerable Sariputta. So he was as if like being enlightened by the teachings of the Buddha. Then the Venerable Sariputta asked him, didn't it occur to you to question the Buddha how one is affected in body and affected in mind, and how one is affected in body but not affected in mind? So when you were not well in the past, was your mind afflicted or felt pain, suffering? So as long as one is not enlightened, one has strong will, then one will be affected in mind when the body is not well. So then the householder Nakulapita say that they came from far away, just want to learn the meaning of this instruction from the Venerable Sariputta. Then the Venerable Sariputta explained to them how is one afflicted in body and afflicted in mind. So the uninstructed ruling, usually they has no regard for the noble ones, and the uninstructed ruling usually are unskilled and undisciplined in the Dharma taught by the noble ones. The uninstructed ruling have no regard of the superior person. Superior persons means like Sappurisa, and they are also not skilled and not disciplined in their Dharma. Uninstructed ruling is known as Asuttawa Putujana in Pali. Asuttawa Putujana disregards the noble ones, the superior person. That means they don't have any respect for the noble ones, to the superior persons. And they never want to listen to the teachings of the profound Dharma, and not even want to practice it. So that's why they are known as uninstructed ruling. The opposite of a uninstructed ruling is a good ruling. Good ruling is known as Kalyana Putujana. Kalyana Putujana. Kalyana Putujana always show respect, have high regard to the noble one and superior person, and they always have willing or endowed with strong chanda to learn and practice the profound Dharma from the noble ones and the superior persons. So which one do you belong to? So you should become a Kalyana Putujana. Should be endowed with chanda, desire, interest to hear the profound teachings and practice them accordingly. So these uninstructed rulings do not have right view. So uninstructed ruling regards form, or form is rupa, as self, or self is possessing form, or form as in self, or self as in form. So the uninstructed ruling also regards feeling, perception, feelings means Vedana, perception Sanya, volitional formation Sankara, and consciousness in the same wrong way. So when he regards form as self, or self is possessing form, or form as in self, or self as in form, then he become obsessed, or he obsessed by the notion I'm in form, or form is mine. So because of this obsession, then when his form changes or alters, when there's change and alteration of the form, then they will arise in him sorrow, or sorrow means sukha, lamentation, parideva, pain, dukkha, sukha, parideva, dukkha, or displeasure, domanassa, and despair or grief, upayasa. So I believe you might have seen your friends or anyone who are sick, very ill. They may become very depressions or full of emotions. Why do they feel depressions or full of emotions?
The sickness?
It's not the sickness. It's because of the view of self. For example, my body. This body belongs to me, mine. When there's a clinging to this body, definitely there's a wish that this body be permanent, or will not subject to change. So actually this sutta is talking about 20 types of sakkayaditthi. There are 4 ways of viewing this sakkayaditthi for each aggregate. So as you know, there are 5 aggregates. So take the form, rupa khanda, as an example. So the first way is one regards form as self. It means one has the notion that the form and self as indistinguishable, as if they cannot be separated. So if they do not practice mindfulness, meditation, Vipassana meditation, then they cannot see these 2 separate processes. So in other words, they could not see mentality and physicality. So that's why they have the notion of atta, self. So he could not make a distinction between the self and the rupa. Then the second is that one regards self as possessing form. So here he takes the mind or the mental factors as a self, or as a atta. So this self possesses the form rupa. So here he takes a formless. Formless means the mind or the mental factors as a self. So this self, atta, possesses the form. In other words, self, atta. Here he regards the mind or the mental factors as the self, as the atta. So if one could not realize the true nature of the mind, the mental factors, then one might think there's an everlasting mind or an everlasting consciousness. So if one cannot see the true nature of the mind and the mental factors, then one might regard this mind as an everlasting mind. So there's a discourse of the Buddha discuss about the mind or the consciousness that transmigrates to next existence. So in meditation, in the practice mindfulness meditation, meditators also need to realize the true nature of consciousness or the mind. Consciousness is a vijnana in Pali, sometimes it's also known as called mind. So they are the synonymous term. So the second one is like the atta possesses the form. Then the third, he regards forms as in self. So the third is form as in self. So one takes the mind as a self. So as if the form is situated inside the mind. Then the fourth is a self as in form. Self as in form. So as I mentioned earlier, he regards the mind as a self. Self as in form, in other words, he regards the atta is inside the body. So similarly, sometimes those who do not understand the Dhamma well might think that the mind is inside the body. And then if they do not understand the Dhamma well, they also take this mind as an everlasting mind. Then that person might think that when a person has passed away, then the mind will leave from the body, come out from the body, and take birth again in some places. Take birth again in a new body. Isn't it? Even some who are Buddhists also might think this way. They compare this old body as an old house, cannot live in the old house anymore. So the mind will leave the old house and take birth in the new home or new house. But do you think there's the same mind take birth again in the next existence or next life? So if it's not the same mind, then what do you think about the previous mind? When you say it's not the same mind take birth in the next existence, then what happened to the previous mind? The previous mind, or we say the last thought had passed away. So when the last what called death consciousness had passed away, then what will be arising in the next moment is new consciousness, or sometimes known as rebirth linking consciousness, arises in the next moment. Patisandhi citta. So can you reflect on your experience about this passing away of the previous consciousness? Then the next consciousness can arise. So if the consciousness that's arising at this present moment did not pass away, then the next consciousness can't arise. Similarly, any phenomenon that's arising at this moment, if this phenomenon had not passed away, then the next phenomenon can't arise. But you need to develop sharp mindfulness and strong momentary concentration to realize this experience. So it's because one regards the form of rupa in the wrong way, then he becomes obsessed by the notion I'm form is mine. So this notion I'm in form is mine, is due to tanha, craving, and ditti, or view of self. So that's why whenever there are changes or alteration of the form, then they will arising in him soka, parideva, dukkha, domanassa, and upayasa. Sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure, and despair. So that person also regards feeling vedana, perception sanya, volitional formation, and sankhara, consciousness vijnana wrongly, or in a wrong way. So the Venerable Sariputta say, it is in such a way that one is afflicted in body and afflicted in mind. Then how is one afflicted in body but not afflicted in mind? So here the instructed noble disciple who always have high respect to the noble one, to the superior person, and the instructed noble disciple is also skilled and disciplined in their dharma. So instructed noble disciple does not regard form as self, or self as possessing form, or form as in self, or self as in form. So when he does not regard the form in the wrong way, then he will not be obsessed by the notion I'm form or form is mine. So when there's no obsessions, and when the form, when there are changes or alteration taking place in the form of the body, then they will not arise in him soka or parideva, dukkha, domanassa, and upayasa. So similarly, he does not regard feeling, perception, volitional formation, and consciousness in a wrong way. So how do you free, or what should be done in order to be free from this notion, notion that I'm form is mine, or I'm feeling is mine, and so on. When the discourse say that one does not regard form as self, or one does not regard self as possessing form, or form as in self, or self as in form. So how to achieve it, or how to realize it? So in brief, how do you overcome the view of self, or atthakaya ditthi? So in order to overcome this sakka ditthi or atta ditthi, then you have to realize that the true nature of the five aggregates. So it's not possible to overcome ditthi by hearing the talk on the Dharma, or by reading, or by thinking, analyzing. You need to gain wisdom through mental development. In other words, you have to gain bhavana panya. As you know, there are three kinds of panya, or sutta panya, panya or wisdom that you gain by hearing as well as reading. The second is the knowledge or wisdom panya gained by thinking or analyzing after reading or after hearing. So these two types of panya, sutta maya panya, cinta maya panya, will not help you to overcome the mental defilements. So you have to gain bhavana panya. In other words, you have to put forth effort to develop wisdom, to cultivate wisdom by the practice of satipatthana meditations. So as long as one has not realized the true nature of five aggregates of clinging, or in other words, nama-rupa, through direct experience, then they can't remove the view of self or ditthi. So whenever there's a notion of self, or atta ditthi, or sakka ditthi, then one might think that it is self or atta is everlasting, or it is atta self only lasts for one life, or lasts for only one existence. So, in according with the commentaries of the discourse, there are two types of what called wrong view. One is known as Sasataditi, the view of eternalists, and then the second is Uchetaditi, the view of annihilationists. So there are 20 types of called Sakaditi discussed in this discourse. So the first type, or the first wrong way of seeing the self, whether form as self, feeling as self, perception as self, or volitional formation as self, consciousness as self. So, in accordance in the commentary, this wrong way of regarding this wrong way of seeing self is due to the view of annihilation, Uchetaditi. So these 5 types of what called wrong view of self belong to the Uchetaditi, the view of annihilation. So the view of annihilation, Uchetaditi, holds that the self only lasts for this life or this existence. At the end of the life, the self and the rupa will be destructed. There is no more birth. And the other three ways, 3 types of what called Sakaditi. For example, the self, self is possessing form, or form as in self, or self as in form, or self as possessing feeling, or feeling as in self, or self as in feeling, and so on. So there are altogether 15 types of Sakaditi, which are due to the view of eternalism. In other words, one regards the mind or the mental factors as self. So one holds that the self is everlasting. So when one holds that Atta self is permanent, for example, when this body is old, is not usable anymore, can't use anymore, then the self will leave the body and take a new body and start a new life. So this wrong view can hinder the progress of mindfulness meditation, Vipassana meditations. Only the noble ones who have attained the first stage of enlightenment will have what called remove DT or completely. So it's because of this DT, that's why when the body is affected, the mind is also affected. So even the Buddha is also affected by what called sickness or pain, but the mind is not affected at all. So why the mind is not affected at all? Because the Buddha has uprooted DT and all kinds of mental defilements. So in accordance with the commentaries to this discourse, the noble one, for example, Sotapanna, will not be entirely free from affliction in mind. So in other words, there's still some affliction in mind. According to the commentaries, the Sotapanna, Sakadagami, Anagami are neither entirely affected in mind nor entirely unaffected in mind. In other words, they are still experience some affliction, but the degree is getting less and less. But only Arahant who have attained who have realized the fruition knowledge, you will not have any affliction in mind at all. But one who has experience in mindfulness meditation, Vipassana meditation, as one could gain more and more experiences of Vipassana knowledge, then one may not experience strong affliction in mind compared with those whirling, those uninstructed whirling. So that's why it is important to mindful of painful feeling, unpleasant feeling. If you avoid painful feeling, unpleasant feeling, then you can't make good progress in mindfulness meditation. Similarly, you need to practice mindfulness in whatever condition. Sometimes the condition is not agreeable. Sometimes condition is agreeable. For example, sometimes the condition is not agreeable, very hot, very humid. Then if you think I can't meditate because of this condition, I cannot practice when the weather is cooling and so on, then you can't make a real progress. So that's why in this practice, in this way of mindfulness meditation, meditators have to face with the physical discomfort, physical pain. There was one yogi here discuss about doing what called physical exercise or yoga in order to overcome the physical pain and so on. Then there are some practice where the teachers taught the yogis to do some yogas or some physical exercise so that they can sit for 1 hour without any pain or with only little pain. Do you think this is the right approach to the practice of mindfulness meditation? So that's why the senior meditation master will never agree or allow meditators to do physical exercise or yoga in order to be free from physical pain and so on. So if one undertakes the physical exercise and yoga, then you lose a good opportunity to understand dukkha or to realize the nature of dukkha. So in that way, those yogis can only practice mindfulness well when they feel physically comfortable or at ease. Actually, in another way, they have some clinging to a called pleasant feeling. So this clinging to pleasant feeling is also due to ditthi. When there's a view of self, or I, or person, then a self or person and I definitely desires for comfort, for pleasant feeling. If one desire for comfort, pleasant feeling, definitely there will be aversion arising when the feeling is discomfort, painful, and disagreeable. In that way, one will suffer when this painful feeling due to sickness or when the feeling is not agreeable. So that's why, in order to overcome suffering, to overcome ditthi, one needs to practice the 4 foundations of mindfulness. So if one doesn't practice the 4 foundations of mindfulness well, then the painful feeling will be obsessing the mind. So once whenever Anuruddha was not well, he was sick seriously, Then the bhikkhus who visited him asked him a question: in what dwelling does the Venerable Anuruddha usually dwell, so that the recent bodily painful feeling do not persist, obsessing the mind? So Venerable Anuruddha answered, "It's because I dwell with the mind well established in the fourth establishment of mindfulness. So that's why the recent body feelings did not persist, obsessing my mind." So that's why there's a well-known saying by the Thera Uttiya. The Thera Uttiya said, "When illness came, my mindfulness arose. Illness has called. There's no time for indolence." So in those, when one is faced with illness, when one is suffered due to illness, there's no time for indolence or to be lazy. But do you think you want to wait until illness comes, then you only begin to practice mindfulness? So you should be practice mindfulness diligently, as mentioned in the Sutta, that you should put forth extraordinary desire or chanda, extraordinary effort or viriya, while you are still healthy. Actually, there are many hundreds of discourses of the Buddha about overcoming ditthi, overcoming the wrong view of self, attaditthi, sakkaditthi. It's because ditthi is the immediate cause of arising of mental defilements, kilesa, as well as unwholesome karma. So it's because during the Buddha's time until today, the view of self, attaditthi, sakkaditthi are held by many worldlings. Those who hold the attaditthi, sakkaditthi, you always have the notion of everlasting self, everlasting soul. They cling to this body as his body, and so on. So that's why whenever any changes or alteration taking place in the body, then or when they are encountering impermanence, then they will suffer. So do you think that your mind is inside the body? So the mind actually has no location. In the practice of mindfulness meditation, Vipassana meditation, the mind or consciousness is arising dependent on the phenomenon. So if you practice mindfulness correctly, then you can realize awareness or the consciousness of knowing is one process, the object is another process. Sometimes some meditators think that their awareness or sati can go deep inside into the phenomenon. For example, some meditators reported that his mindfulness or her sati could go deep inside the pain and seeing that there are heat, hardness inside the pain, and so on. So what do you think? Are there these other phenomena such as heat, hardness inside the painful feeling? But in reality, pain is one object, one process by itself. Heat is another object, another process. Hardness is another object or another process. So when pain has disappeared, then the next phenomenon can arise. So, for example, heat. So when heat has disappeared, then the next phenomenon can arise, for example, hardness. So these three different phenomena perceived by a single process of awareness or by different processes of awareness. Actually, the three different phenomena are perceived or being mindful by three different processes of awareness or consciousness of knowing. So only when you can see clearly, then you begin to overcome DT or the view of self, or thinking that there's a meditators watching the processes. So we shall continue about to discuss about overcoming Sassata Ditti, Ujjeta Ditti in the next talk. So I wish all meditators put forth effort to practice mindfulness correctly, so that you can overcome the view of self during your practice and make progress till the attainment of supramundane panya, Lukotara panya, and uprooted your mental defilements completely and attain ultimate purification of mind.
สาธุ สาธุ สาธุ